People love to belong. They are terrified of being alone. They will follow any crowd, any ideology, any noise, just to feel less empty inside. And yet, have you noticed? Every great being who has truly awakened has walked alone. Buddha walked alone. Jesus walked alone. Lao Tzu alone. I have walked alone. And there is a reason for this. The crowd can never awaken because the crowd has no consciousness of its own. It is a collective hypnosis. When you follow the crowd, you fall asleep more deeply. I'm not saying this to condemn the crowd. It is simply how unconsciousness functions. When you are with many others who are asleep, their sleep supports your sleep. You feel safe, comfortable, accepted. You can dream without disturbance. To awaken among dreamers is dangerous because your eyes will see what theirs cannot, and they will not forgive you for it. That is why the awakened one always becomes an outsider. Not because he wants to be different, but because truth itself cannot be shared with the unconscious majority. This is the paradox. The more awake you become, the more alone you are. But that aloneness is not loneliness. It is the fragrance of your individuality, your wholeness. The crowd will call it arrogance, rebellion, madness. They will say, "Who are you to walk alone?" They cannot understand that walking alone is not an act of ego. It is the flowering of freedom. When I speak of walking alone, I am not telling you to escape society or to live in a cave. That would be another form of bondage, another crowd in disguise, the crowd of hermits. Walking alone means being inwardly free, even in the marketplace. It means not depending on others for your truth, your joy, your direction. You can live among millions and yet remain untouched, unpolluted by the mass mind. The crowd lives by imitation. It repeats what has been said, it copies what has been done. It moves like a herd, terrified of silence, terrified of looking inward. And yet the miracle is this: only when you dare to leave the crowd does the real journey begin. The moment you stop walking where everyone walks, you begin to discover who you are. When I was young, I saw this very clearly. People were worshipping dead traditions, dead gods, dead scriptures, and everyone was so proud of belonging to a religion, to a nation, to a party. Belonging gave them identity. But what kind of identity depends on the approval of the blind? If 10,000 blind men agree that the sun does not exist, does it make the darkness real? The crowd believes it does. Truth has never been a democracy. It has never been a matter of majority vote. A single individual in awareness outweighs a million in ignorance. But this frightens people. They want numbers. They want comfort in being many. The awakened one stands alone because he no longer needs validation. His truth is self-luminous. He has seen with his own eyes. And once you have seen, you cannot pretend to be blind again. That is why, if you are on the path of awakening, prepare to be misunderstood. Prepare to be rejected. The crowd crucifies the awakened one, not because he is evil, but because his light exposes their sleep. They would rather destroy the light than open their eyes. To be accepted by the crowd is to betray your own consciousness. To walk with the crowd is to walk away from yourself. But listen carefully. This is not a call for rebellion for its own sake. Many people hear this and think, yes, I will be different. I will go against society. That is still the crowd in disguise. You are still reacting to it. Walking alone is not reaction, it is realization. The awakened one does not fight the crowd. He simply steps out of it. He watches it from the hilltop, smiling, knowing that the day will come when each member of that crowd will also have to walk alone. When you are awake, the need to belong disappears because you realize you belong to existence itself. You are not part of a human herd. You are part of the whole cosmos. The trees, the stars, the rivers, they do not belong to any religion, any ideology. They exist in suchness. That is what awakening means. To exist in suchness, without labels, without borrowed knowledge. You have been trained from childhood to walk with others, to conform, to obey. The fear of being alone was planted in you deliberately. The crowd needs your obedience to survive. If people began to think for themselves, religions would collapse overnight. Nations would dissolve. The crowd is built upon fear, fear of being different, fear of losing approval, fear of freedom. And freedom is what frightens the mind most, because freedom means responsibility. Once you are free, you can no longer blame anyone. You cannot hide behind the collective. You stand naked before existence. That is why most people cling to the crowd. They want someone else to decide for them. The priest, the politician, the ideology, they all serve this purpose, to relieve you of your responsibility to be conscious. But remember, no one can awaken you. No one can walk your path. The very idea of walking with others is false when it comes to truth. You can walk beside someone physically, but spiritually you are always alone. Even lovers cannot share the same consciousness. They can be close, they can touch, but the inner sky remains yours and yours alone. So the question is not why the awakened one walks alone. The question is, why do you keep walking with the crowd, knowing it leads nowhere? Look at your life, every decision shaped by others' opinions, every dream borrowed from society's ideals. Have you ever truly chosen anything on your own? When you begin to awaken, you realize that the crowd has been living your life for you. They told you what is good, what is evil, what is success, what is failure. You became a reflection of their madness. Awakening means reclaiming your life from their hands. It means saying, I will see with my own eyes even if it blinds me. I will walk my own path even if it leads me into the wilderness. That courage, to be utterly alone, is the birth of the awakened one. The crowd is afraid of the wilderness. They want roads that are already made, directions already drawn, destinations already promised. But life does not work like that. Life is not a map. It is a mystery. The awakened one is one who has the courage to drop the map and enter the unknown. The crowd calls it madness, but it is the beginning of true sanity. When you walk with the crowd, you only repeat their steps. When you walk alone, every step is discovery, every breath is new. The crowd lives on borrowed light. It quotes, it imitates, it remembers. It never sees. Its knowledge is second-hand, always from someone else's experience. That is why it never transforms. Only direct experience transforms. I am not here to give you beliefs. I am here to destroy them so that your eyes can see freshly. Once you see, you will know why awakened ones cannot walk with others. Seeing means freedom, and freedom is a danger to every system built on conformity. When you awaken, the crowd begins to look strange to you. Their joys seem childish, their ambitions meaningless, their fears exaggerated. You see people chasing shadows and calling them dreams. You see them competing for illusions, fighting for names, dying for flags. You want to shake them and say, wake up, but you cannot. They will not hear you. They are too deep in their sleep, and if you insist too much, they will hate you, because deep down they know you are right. Your presence reminds them of what they are avoiding, their own emptiness. Do not try to change the crowd. You will only exhaust yourself. The awakened one does not fight the darkness. He lights his lamp. If even one person near him catches that flame, it is enough. The transformation of the world has never come from the majority. It has always come from the few who dared to stand alone. Just a few awakened beings, and the consciousness of the whole planet begins to shift. But remember, even those few never move as a group. They are like stars in the sky, each shining in its own place, yet all part of the same vastness. When I say the crowd is unconscious, I do not mean it as an insult. It is simply a fact. They are asleep because they have been conditioned to sleep. Every child is born awake. Watch the eyes of a small child, clear, unclouded, full of wonder. But soon, the parents begin to pour their dreams, their fears, their morality, their ambitions into that pure consciousness. The child learns to imitate, to obey, to adjust. Slowly, the light fades, and the eyes become dull. By the time that child grows up, he is no longer himself. He is a copy of others. To awaken is to undo all that conditioning. It is painful at first because everything you thought was real begins to crumble. You start to see how artificial your life has been, your goals, your relationships, even your prayers. You realize you have been acting a role wearing a mask. The crowd gives you these masks and calls them identity. Without them, you feel naked. But that nakedness is your truth. There will be moments of deep loneliness when you begin to wake up. You will miss the warmth of the crowd, the comfort of belonging. You will feel like a stranger among your own people. But this loneliness is not a curse, it is a passage. It is like the space between night and dawn. Only through that space can the sun rise within you. The loneliness of the awakened one is the womb of enlightenment. The crowd avoids silence because silence reveals this inner loneliness. They fill their lives with noise, with endless doing, with constant distraction. They watch, they talk, they scroll, they consume, anything to avoid facing themselves. The awakened one, however, turns inward. He sits in silence and faces the abyss within, and that abyss, when embraced, becomes a mirror of the infinite. You see, awakening is not about becoming special or superior. It is about becoming real. The crowd lives in lies. The awakened one lives in truth. And truth is always solitary. The lie needs many voices to sustain itself. Truth can stand alone. 1,000 lies cannot overpower a single truth, because truth has the power of being. Lies only have numbers. When I started to speak, people were disturbed. They said, "Why can't you say what others say? Why do you always go against tradition?" But I was not going against anything. I was simply seeing from my own eyes. If that vision contradicted tradition, so be it. Tradition is dead. Truth is alive. The crowd clings to corpses because they are safe. The awakened one embraces life because it is dangerous, and that is another reason why the awakened one never walks with the crowd. Life itself is unpredictable. The crowd hates the unpredictable. It needs control, order, security. But truth is wild. It moves like a river, always changing, never the same. To walk alone means to flow with life, not against it. It means to trust existence completely, even when you don't know where it is taking you. People ask me, "Isn't it selfish to walk alone?" I tell them, what you call selfishness is actually self-awareness. The man who walks with the crowd out of fear, he is selfish because he sacrifices his soul for approval. The one who walks alone has dropped the self altogether. He moves not for ego, but from being. He is not seeking anything. He is simply flowing with the whole. When Buddha left the palace, people said he was abandoning his duty, his wife, his child. They called him selfish. But had he stayed, he would have lived and died as a lie. By walking alone, he found his truth. And once he found it, he shared it with the world, not as a missionary, not as a savior, but as one who has seen. That is how awakening spreads, not by preaching, but by presence. You too can walk alone, you too can awaken. It is not reserved for a few chosen ones. It is your birthright. But to claim it, you must risk losing the crowd. You must be ready to be misunderstood, even hated. You must be ready to die to your old identity. That death is the beginning of real life. The greatest slavery in the world is not political, it is psychological. You think you are free because you can vote, because you can travel, because you can choose your job or your partner. But these freedoms are superficial. The real bondage is invisible. It is in your mind. You think as the crowd has taught you to think. You desire what the crowd has told you to desire. You fear what the crowd fears. Your so-called individuality is nothing but the collective echo. You are a repetition, not a revelation. The awakened one breaks this inner chain. He does not ask for permission to be himself. He does not need approval from the herd to exist. He listens only to the silent whisper within. And when you begin to listen to that whisper, something miraculous happens. It grows louder than all the noise outside. That inner voice is not your ego. It is existence itself speaking through you. But you can only hear it when you stop listening to the crowd. The crowd speaks in slogans. The awakened one listens in silence. The crowd follows rules. The awakened one follows awareness. The crowd worships order. The awakened one dances with chaos. And yet, his chaos is deeper order. He has surrendered to the flow of life while the crowd clings to patterns out of fear. They build walls of belief around themselves and call it safety. But a prison with golden bars is still a prison. The tragedy of the crowd is that it mistakes comfort for happiness. It mistakes conformity for morality. The crowd praises obedience because obedience keeps the structure intact. A society built on obedience needs followers, not thinkers. The awakened one is a danger because he cannot be used. He does not fit into the system. He is unpredictable, untamed, alive. That is why societies crucify their Buddhas, poison their Socrates, silence their mystics. They are not killed for their sins. They are killed for their freedom. When you begin to awaken, the first thing you notice is fear. Fear of standing out, fear of being alone, fear of being wrong. That fear is the voice of the crowd inside you. Even when you leave the physical crowd, their voices echo in your mind. It takes courage to silence them. It takes meditation. Slowly, as you turn inward, you realize the crowd was never outside. It was within you all along. You are carrying millions of voices, parents, teachers, priests, politicians, all telling you what to do, what to believe, what to be. Awakening means cleaning the house of your mind. Throw them out, not with anger, but with understanding. Thank them and let them go. Their words have served their purpose. You no longer need borrowed light. You have your own flame now. In this silence, a strange thing happens. At first you feel empty because you have lost the noise that used to define you. But soon that emptiness reveals itself as fullness. The silence becomes music. You begin to see that walking alone does not mean isolation. It means integration. You are no longer divided by the opinions of others. You become whole, and wholeness always stands alone. The crowd lives in fragmentation. It is always in conflict, one part wanting this, another fearing that. It runs in all directions and goes nowhere. The awakened one moves in stillness. Even when he walks, he is not in a hurry. Even when he speaks, there is silence within his words, because his movement is not driven by desire, but by awareness. When you start to walk alone, life begins to reveal itself in a new way. You start to notice small things, a bird's song, the wind on your face, the rhythm of your own breath. These are not trivial, they are gateways. The crowd misses them because it is always running somewhere else. The awakened one stops and sees, and in that seeing, he meets existence face to face. Many people ask me, "Osho, isn't it painful to be alone?" And I tell them, yes, in the beginning it is painful, because you are detoxing from the crowd. You are withdrawing from the collective drug of unconsciousness. For a while it feels like death, but what dies is false. What remains is real. Once you have tasted that reality, you can never go back. When I left the world of belief, it was not a decision, it was an awakening. I simply saw that everything people were chasing was futile. Money, fame, power, they are just toys for children. Yet adults are playing with them more seriously than any child ever did. The crowd worships success. The awakened one worships awareness. Success dies with you. Awareness goes beyond death. The crowd never looks into death. It avoids it, hides it, decorates it. But the awakened one faces it directly, and in facing death, he finds life. Because death is not the end, it is the mirror in which life reflects itself. When you have looked into death without fear, you become free. The crowd can control only those who fear death. Once you are fearless, you cannot be manipulated. The awakened one walks alone because he has nothing to gain and nothing to lose. His steps are not toward a goal. They are expressions of joy. He walks not to reach somewhere, but because walking itself is blissful. The crowd walks to arrive. The awakened one walks to celebrate. And in that celebration, he touches eternity. Walking alone does not mean rejecting others. It means seeing them as they are, fellow travelers, each in their own time, each on their own path. The awakened one knows that even the most unconscious person will one day awaken, so there is compassion, not judgment. But compassion does not mean compromise. You do not have to join the sleep to show love to the sleepers. Real love stands in the light and waits. The world will try to pull you back. They will say, "Come, be normal again, be one of us." But once the flame of awareness has touched you, you can never go back into darkness. You can act like them, speak like them, smile like them, but inside, you will know you no longer belong. You are in the world, but not of it. That is the essence of walking alone. When I say the awakened one walks alone, it does not mean he is against the world. It means he has seen the falseness of all divisions. He walks in such totality that no boundary can contain him. He is not Hindu, not Christian, not Muslim. He is not even spiritual or unspiritual. He is simply a presence, undefinable, unlabeled. The crowd needs labels, because without them, it feels lost. The awakened one is comfortable with being lost, because he knows that in not knowing, truth reveals itself. The crowd depends on certainty. The awakened one lives in wonder. The crowd wants conclusions. The awakened one lives in questions. To the crowd, questions are dangerous because they open the door to doubt, and doubt is the beginning of intelligence. That is why societies teach belief, not awareness. They want believers, not seekers. But the awakened one is a seeker to the very end. Even if God appeared before him, he would still ask, "Who are you?" Because for him, truth is not an object to be possessed. It is a living mystery to be experienced moment to moment. You see, the crowd wants to freeze life into formulas. The awakened one allows life to flow. That flow makes him unpredictable, uncontrollable, spontaneous. You cannot organize an awakened man. You cannot make him part of your system. That's why institutions fear him. They cannot categorize him, they cannot claim him, they cannot use him. The very presence of someone who is awake becomes a mirror, and mirrors are dangerous to those who live in illusion. If you truly awaken, your very existence becomes a mirror too. People will project onto you admiration, hatred, misunderstanding. Let them. Do not fight the projections. They are part of their sleep. The crowd sees what it wants to see. Do not try to correct them. Simply remain aware. You are not here to convince anyone. You are here to be a flame, and whoever is ready will find warmth in that flame. When I was younger, I tried to show people how they were destroying their own joy. I spoke passionately, sometimes fiercely, because I wanted them to wake up. But later, I saw that even that was too much interference. You cannot awaken someone by shaking them. You can only create an atmosphere where awakening becomes possible. So now I simply speak to those whose hearts are ready to hear. The rest can continue their sleep. It is their right. Existence is patient. No one can escape awakening forever. The crowd functions through imitation, but the awakened one functions through authenticity. And authenticity is the rarest thing in the world. Everyone wants to be loved, but few dare to be authentic, because authenticity may cost you that love. You may lose your friends, your family, your position in society, but what kind of love depends on lies? The awakened one would rather be alone in truth than surrounded by falsehood. He does not crave acceptance, he craves reality. And here lies the secret. The moment you accept your aloneness totally, you are no longer alone. You become one with existence. The trees, the stars, the ocean, everything becomes part of your being. The crowd walks together and yet remains separate, isolated inside their egos. The awakened one walks alone, and yet is united with the whole. This is the ultimate paradox. Loneliness belongs to the ego, aloneness belongs to the soul. When I sit in silence, I am surrounded by everything, by the song of the birds, by the fragrance of the earth, by the heartbeat of life itself, and I feel no separation. This is what I mean by walking alone. It is not physical isolation. It is a deep union with the totality of existence. You walk alone from the crowd, but you walk with the cosmos. You walk away from the noise, but you walk into the music. The crowd believes in belonging, but the awakened one belongs to all. He belongs to no group, because he belongs to life itself. He is a citizen of the universe. You cannot define his home, because his home is everywhere. You cannot define his path, because every path leads him deeper into himself. He is not a wanderer, he is rooted in the vastness of being. The moment you stop needing others to approve of you, you begin to see beauty in your own steps. You start dancing not to impress, but because the dance overflows from your joy. You start loving not to possess, but because love becomes your very nature. The crowd loves as a transaction. The awakened one loves as fragrance. His love asks for nothing, not even recognition. It simply gives because it cannot help but give. But the world cannot understand this kind of love. It wants love to be exclusive, possessive, bound by rules. It wants to make it safe. Yet the awakened one knows that love that is safe is not love. It is an agreement between fears. Real love is dangerous because it dissolves the ego. It melts the boundaries. The crowd fears that melting, so it keeps love within laws. The awakened one breaks all those laws, not to rebel, but because he has found a higher order beyond human morality. That higher order is not imposed, it is natural. When you are aware, compassion arises naturally. You don't have to practice it. It flows like water. The crowd practices morality because it has no awareness. It needs commandments. It needs discipline. It needs authority. The awakened one has none of these. His only discipline is awareness itself, and awareness never fails. Look at nature. No tree follows commandments, yet each fulfills its destiny perfectly. No river reads scriptures, yet it finds the ocean unfailingly. That is how the awakened one lives, effortless, spontaneous, in harmony with the whole. The crowd calls it chaos because it cannot understand order without control, but existence has its own intelligence. The awakened one trusts it completely. Once you taste that trust, you stop worrying about where the path leads. You stop asking what will happen to me. Because you see, nothing ever really happens to you. You are not the doer, you are the witness. Life flows through you, existence lives through you, and when that realization dawns, walking alone becomes bliss itself. You are no longer separate from the dance of creation. In that silence, in that deep trust, a new kind of love arises, not for someone, not for something, but for all that is. That love is freedom. That love is awakening. To walk alone is the ultimate flowering of consciousness. It means you have reached that space within yourself where nothing is missing. You are no longer searching, no longer begging for completion from the outside. You have seen that the treasure you were seeking has always been within you. When this realization dawns, your steps become light, your presence luminous. You move through the world as a witness, not as a beggar. You no longer crave attention because you have become attention itself. You no longer need to be seen because you have seen yourself. The crowd cannot understand such a man. They ask, "Why are you not ambitious? Why don't you strive for success?" And he smiles. Success and failure belong to the same game, a game he no longer plays. He moves from moment to moment, without any destination, and that is why every moment is complete. To the crowd, this looks like laziness. To the awakened one, it is grace. The crowd lives in the future, the awakened one lives in the now. The crowd runs toward an imaginary goal. The awakened one rests in being. The crowd is always becoming. The awakened one simply is. And to be is the greatest revolution. Because when you are content just to be, the entire structure of society, based on desire, fear, and competition, collapses within you. You have stepped out of the game. You have walked alone. This aloneness is not isolation. It is intimacy with existence. You begin to feel life breathing through you, the same breath that moves the wind, the same energy that fuels the stars. You are no longer separate. You are the ocean pretending to be a wave, and suddenly the wave remembers it is the ocean. This remembrance is enlightenment. Do not think that walking alone will make you lonely. Loneliness is the shadow of the crowd. Only those who have depended on others for meaning feel lonely when they are left alone. The awakened one feels full in his aloneness, overflowing. His aloneness becomes creativity. It becomes poetry, music, silence, laughter. He dances alone, but his dance includes the whole universe. And yes, there will be moments when the world misunderstands you. They will say, "You are lost, you have gone mad." But madness in a mad world is sanity. To see what others refuse to see, to question what others accept blindly. This is the madness of the awakened one. You will feel pain, but it is a sacred pain, the pain of birth, not of death. Out of that pain, something vast and radiant is born, your true self. When you finally see that there is no crowd to belong to, that there is no other to please, something incredible happens. Fear disappears. Fear only exists in relation to others. Fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of failure. Once you drop the others, fear drops with them. You stand naked before existence, utterly exposed, utterly free. And in that exposure, love blossoms naturally. People think that to be alone means to renounce love, but it is quite the opposite. The man who cannot be alone cannot love, because his love is a need, a dependency. Only the man who is at home in his own being can love without condition. He does not need you to fill his emptiness. He shares his fullness with you. His love is a gift, not a bargain. That love is divine, because it comes from the source. And when two awakened beings meet, they may walk together, but they do not follow each other. They share the path without losing themselves. They mirror each other's light without merging their identities. Their togetherness is not a crowd, it is a communion. Such meeting is rare, but when it happens, the whole universe celebrates. So, if you feel that your path is lonely, do not be afraid. Celebrate it. You are walking the same path that all awakened ones have walked. Every Buddha, every Christ, every Lao Tzu has faced the same silence, the same misunderstanding, the same beauty. You are in good company. Though invisible, it surrounds you. The fragrance of all those who have awakened before you travels with you. You are not alone in your aloneness. The world needs more people who can walk alone, not in arrogance, not in rebellion, but in awareness, because only those who are free can show others what freedom looks like. Only those who have stepped out of the crowd can truly love those who are still asleep. The awakened one does not escape the world. He transforms it simply by being himself. When you no longer need to belong, you become a blessing to the world. You no longer demand, you give. You no longer complain, you understand. You no longer argue, you shine. Your very presence becomes a silent invitation for others to wake up. And one day, someone from the crowd will see your light and begin to question their own sleep. That is how awakening spreads, from one flame to another, from one silence to another. If you want to awaken, start with courage. The courage to be alone. Sit in silence and listen, not to the world but to yourself. Drop every borrowed idea, every borrowed belief, every borrowed name. Let the noise settle. And when all that is false falls away, what remains is the real you. That realness is worth more than all the approval of the world. You were not born to walk behind anyone. You were not born to fit into the mold of the crowd. You were born to be yourself, to live your truth, to dance your dance. The whole existence is waiting for that song which only you can sing. Don't waste your life echoing others. Sing your song, even if your voice trembles. Walk your path, even if your feet bleed. Because in that walk, in that trembling song, you will find your soul. And when you find it, you will laugh, because you will realize that you were never truly alone. Existence has always been walking with you. It was the crowd that made you forget. So walk alone, but remember, you are walking with the whole. Each step you take in awareness is a step for all humanity. Every moment you remain conscious adds light to the world. And one day, this light will be so radiant that even the deepest sleepers will stir. The dawn will come, not for the crowd, not for the few, but for all. Until then, keep walking. Don't look back. Don't seek followers. Don't seek approval. Just walk, silently, joyfully, courageously. For in that walk lies the only truth there is. If these words have touched something in you, if they have reminded you of that quiet flame within, let it grow. Share it, not as an idea, but as your presence. Speak less, be more. And if you wish to continue this journey of awareness, stay close, not to me, but to your own consciousness. That is where the real master lives. Walk alone, and you will find the whole existence walking with you.